once you realize the dark is the teacher, the dark is literally the professor that's like rapping on your chamber door. It's like, hey, pull back, sit with me for a bit, and you will come out different.
What do you think it is that you guys created that had people so committed and loyal and like loving it, and like the community that got created?
I think from a practical standpoint, we actually hit the mark on creating something that you can do that's not going to get you bored, that's going to show you physical results, and it is affordable. So that's kind of on a practical level. Mm-hmm. But I think what's even more important and has been more impactful and lasting, you know, they say your vibe attracts your tribe, kind of a cheesy statement, but it's really true. Mm-hmm. And Gretchen and I both have, like, as much as you say, like, my authenticity and kind of whatever, she has her own. Mm-hmm. You're not going to meet another Gretchen Dussault, and she's going to stick with you in her own way too. Mm-hmm. So I think between the two of us, people really saw that, like, okay, wait, these are two women we would love to hang out with. They actually care about the right things. And our authenticity, coupled with the fact that it was a really good workout, I just think it just kind of struck.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think there's another piece, and maybe this is just because it's like the stuff that I care about, mm-hmm. but I think you also had a space that was sexy and unique, and it didn't feel like a Bally Fitness, right? Like, you were sort of boutique, but it was cool. You built a brand, the music, like all that, I think really matters.
Do you think it was she and I that were sexy? Or do you think it was just a space?
I was talking about the space.
You really, you really could have just gone there with me.
Sure. Yeah. You guys also sexy, but the space was like dark and vibey and like, unisex. You were kind of touching on all the, right. Mm-hmm. Unisex. Actually, that's really important. Mm-hmm. Like anybody could go in there and feel like this is cool.
Yep. The unisex vibe has been very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
You're right. From a business standpoint.
Well, we did know, because we just decided. I mean, some people could argue, and if you would have a business consultant come in, they'd say, you know what? Scrap it, go for women. And that's what a lot of fitness places will do. Mm-hmm. It's like the girl squad and the women and whatever. We never wanted that. We always wanted the male factor. Like, we wanted them to be comfortable and to be able to come in, because we're kind of like, we're not girly girls. Like we're very kind of like, I don't know if you want to call us tomboyish, but like, we just jive with the guys just like we do the girls. And it just makes sense, because a lot of these females would drag their reluctant husbands or boyfriends in or whatever, and then they would sort of be, drink the Kool-Aid. And then what's amazing about it is everybody would get in the best shape of their life. And you're like,
you had to have results at the end of the day, right? You can't just have a sexy space and good music. Like, if people, and at the end of the day, I think that's probably maybe the most important thing, right? Like, people were getting good results. And there's something else I want to just touch on, because I don't know if this was an accident or something you had experienced and wanted to provide. But for me, fitness, I'm kind of like, today at least, and I didn't used to be this way, but today at least, not when you were working out with me, I'm like you, like, I can't get enough. Like, I will literally go play tennis, sweat my ass off, come home, work out. Sometimes, like this morning, I worked out before I played tennis. Later on, I'm gonna go for a walk. Like, I've now got the backpack on the walk. Like, I love it. It just feels so good for whatever reason it is, right? And
you look good too, by the way.
Thank you. I have been working on it.
I can tell.
Thank you. And, it's an energetic thing that works mentally and physically. And that's the thing I really did notice at SOS, is that there was like a mental release that was happening too. Right. And you can get that in fitness in a lot of ways. I mean, I was actually having had a rough day yesterday, and this morning I went and played tennis. I play at Ohio State with Ty Tucker, and the guys in Ty, like, he coaches you up and he kicks your ass. And I told him, like, this is what happened at work yesterday. And he just worked my ass off. And I was like feeling not just the physical release, but the emotional release at the same time. And I've seen that happen at SOS. You've created a place for people to mentally and physically heal, grow, build strength.
Yeah. It's by design. It's not by accident.
From the beginning?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Together We Are Stronger was one of the first things that Gretchen and I created. And so we also have a nonprofit called Keep Moving. So the underbelly of System Strength is, what is your system of strength in life? What is it? Do you have one? And how do you create that? First of all, internally, you have to create it here, and then the ripple effect externally inevitably occurs. Before anybody gets a job at System of Strength, the Together We Are Stronger mentality is the first thing we talk about. So we'd really try to scare away some of these people who are all about the superficial. You come in with like the six pack and the biceps, and you think that, automatically you're going to be like we don't care about that. We don't care about that. That will happen inevitably. You'll get in better shape at SOS. So when you are a trainer or an employee at System of Strength, like the client that walks through the door is giving you 60 minutes of their time that they're never going to get back. It's currency, the most important currency, 60 minutes of their time that they had to carve out that day, that week, that month, in spite of all the shit that life is throwing their way. And that's a very important thing that they're giving to you. So I don't care if you were we're in traffic or your playlist isn't working right, whatever. You show up with that in mind. So you show up with that, and then you look in the crowd and you say, you know what are each of these people going through in life right now? Is it cancer? Did someone just pass away? Is someone getting married? Did someone just have a baby? Look around at the tapestry of life that's happening right in front of you. And this is what the trainers lead with. And it gives me goosebumps even today, talking about it, because it changes the game. It changes the way you show up. It changes the room. It changes the client's experience. And then along with that, our trainers are so good at just talking about being there and being strong for your family, your friends. So for example, instead of saying, hey guys, let's make sure we get a 6-pack for spring break. It's like, hey, do you want to be able to walk up the stairs with a 50-pound backpack and a kid on your hip? Like, what are all the functional movements during the day that we can help make better for you? Like, you can be strong inside your vessel. So there's always been something more with System of Strength. So any of our messaging, like whether you see messy or vessel, mission, and we do like that, we play with the double S, but there's always like fearless, badass. There's messages behind all of that. It's like, how do you show up in life?
That's great. And let's shift a little bit to, how you show up in life. We'll come back to that because you once gave me shit about giving you shit for how you were showing up in life. And you talked about the infertility, and I want to talk a little bit about what you've shared courageously, publicly. You lost a child. You've been through some real shit in the business, in life. And, I just want you to share whatever feels right. Yeah. But, I think, you also are a human being, right? You've got this DNA that has you strong and a high achiever, and you can overcome a lot. And you can rally people, and that's who you are. And like, I don't care who you are and what your DNA is, life is going to throw you some heavy shit, and it's thrown you some heavy shit that you've really had to deal with. And, I think I understand that, part of the reason you started the show was so that you could share that part of yourself too. Yeah. Right. That at SOS, you come in, you're probably, the owner, right? People are looking at you a certain way, but, I think there's some commonality there in what you just shared about like the whole person, right? It's not just about the 6-pack and what it looks like on the outside. These are whole human beings. And you've now been sharing that part of yourself too, which I'm super happy to see. I think it's really good for people, and it's good for you too. Yeah.
Well, so going back to when you're just saying about how you gave me some advice on how I was showing up, quick story. So I'm leaving for Bali. This is in the thick of our training relationship. Yeah. And we've already developed quite the rapport.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you knew right away, you're like, me being vulnerable. I mean, I'm not interested. Vulnerability. I mean, yes, at times, but in public it's not natural for me. So it's kind of where I have two left feet, and I'm getting ready to go to Bali, and I'm telling you how I'm just going there for just to learn yoga. And you're like, well, just soak up all the, get all the other weird stuff. I'm like, I'm really not
I think you told me you just wanted to get the certification.
Yeah. Right. So then we started, we kind of volleyed back and forth, whatever. You're like, just don't be an icy sea.
Yeah.
I'll let people kind of figure out what that word was.
Call you the C word.
But here's the thing.
Which I don't really remember ever calling anybody.
No, you and I had a banter. Yeah. There was a reason why you didn't.
I felt comfortable enough, and I promise to really try to hit you with it.
I started the C word with you.
Okay. So that probably is what
anybody can put that back happened. Together. Yeah. I basically called him the C.
Yeah, it was
and then
probably more in your.
So anyway, so I do thank you for that, because I think about you even to this day. When I think about the vulnerability factor, and I'm like, he's right. I just need to kind of open up and let all that happen. But life will do that for you.
Yeah.
And whatever lesson you're supposed to learn, it's weird how it kind of just unfolds, in ways that you would never ask for. Part of the reason why I did do the podcast is my healing journey, but it's also for other people, SOS community. You hear bits and pieces of it in the studio. And if we do an inspirational story, you might get a 4-minute snippet, but a podcast creates more intimacy. You can go so much deeper. We just did an hour podcast on Sarah Anastasi. She's an SOS client who lost her husband to suicide. The amount of feedback that I got on that story alone, and the amount of views. She got to get that out, and that was therapy for her. And I think for a lot of people.
Yes.
And so it's not just for me. I don't want to, I'm not doing this so I can just talk about my journey. Cause even today, I don't love doing it. I have to assess, and I've put things out, and I've talked about it, but I don't love oversharing about it. I just do, I'll give little breadcrumbs here and there. It's you just kind of do what you can do at that moment. But I think it's for other
sorry, go ahead.
I think it's also just it's not just to share it's to allow forum for other people's stories too, and the butterfly effect of that.
Yeah, no question. I mean, and I think, tell me if I'm wrong, what you don't love about it is it's hard.
It's painful.
Yeah, it's really painful. And I think that it's sort of like the part you were talking about earlier, about not being authentic, right? That it's easier to stay in the space you're comfortable with, but it's very freeing too. And you get this added benefit of you being free and what that does for other people.
That's a good point, because what motivates me more is seeing other people struggling with where I've been. How can I not look back and see someone on the path that I've walked down? And how can I not be open? That for me feels like I have an obligation more than me just kind of talking about it because I want to talk about it. Right. It really is, and to honor the 3 girls. I had 2 stillborn and 1 Jade that was, with us for 16 days. It honors them, and they're kind of, I like to say their names. I like to, you don't want to say their names a lot because you don't want to make people awkward or uncomfortable, but I like to say I like to talk about it.
Yes.
But it is definitely, so many people struggle with infertility and child loss. It's a very isolating, shameful, lonely place to be. And to have, to look, it's like with anything. If you look at someone and you're like, oh wait, they've been there. It makes you feel so not alone. It makes you feel so much better. Like, oh my God, I'm not alone. And so if my one story can make someone feel less alone, I'm in.
Yeah. It's interesting, if you don't mind just staying there a little bit. Cause I'm thinking about, we had a stillborn, and it's still to this day, and I'm sure, Katie would say the same, magnified by 1,000. I mean, to be a woman and physically, emotionally go through that experience it's excruciating. It was like one of the worst things that I've ever experienced. And, I can't even imagine what you've experienced. It's painful. It's really painful. And it's interesting you use the word shame and hidden. I don't know why that is. It's just because it makes people uncomfortable to talk about. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. It's really hard. I mean, this is life. Like, it's one of those really hard things that people go through far too often.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the contrast of the masses who get to experience the other side of it. So it's like when most people around you are having healthy babies and they're doing, going through all the motions that I guess you're supposed to go through. And when you get hit with something that is so opposite, it just becomes a very challenging situation for both sides, because the people who don't get it. And they don't know how to comfort you. And you don't even know how you want to be comforted, because you can talk to so many females. And of course I would handle something different than Katie, perhaps. Like, I made sure I went to every single baby shower after we lost Angel. I would be damned if I was going to let my friends down. I mean, so many women would look at me and go, "What's wrong with you? Like it's okay to not go to that." And it is okay to not go to that. But everybody handles their shit, right?
That's right.
And so I think that and because you're a woman and your body, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And, whether it's your fault, I mean, God, women will blame themselves for everything. I mean, you have a miscarriage. It's like, well, I took a jog for 5 minutes, or I ate a jalapeno, or you'll figure out every way to make it your fault. That's just sort of the nature of the beast that you're dealing with.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's so beautiful that you share and talk about it. And I know it's hard, but it is bringing light to subject that so many women are keeping in the dark. Yeah. And, I'm just thinking back to like your parents and the challenges of being young and married and having kids and then having miscarriages. I mean, and trying to grow a business, and right. There's like a lot. It's pretty heavy, And so, I think oftentimes like the really hard kind of dark stuff, there's not a lot of room for it. And there needs to be some space so that people can have that part, be a part of it too.
It has to be, and I think Darcy Wine was just on my podcast. We were talking about sort of toxic positivity and how people just so often run away from the dark. And why they're doing it, because no one wants to be there. But once you realize the dark is the teacher, the dark is literally the professor that's like rapping on your chamber door. It's like, hey, pull back, sit with me for a bit, and you will come out different. Yeah. And if you can just understand that that's part of the experience, because, me looking back, my God, like going through 2 stillborns and losing Jade and being separated from Brady, all those things happening, who the hell would want that? Right. But I look on the other side of this journey and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I am more compassionate, or I think you could use a dose of that. Right. I have so much more empathy. I could definitely use a dose of that. Yeah. Like I have completely not changed, but I have shifted enough where I'm like, you know what? Oh, it's really, it's crazy to think. It's like, I look now, I have this wisdom and this patience and this understanding. It's almost like my, like, I think I actually am one of the few people that can actually try to put someone else's lens on and remove mine. Yeah. But it's hard, right? Well, I can see your perspective, but no, hold on. Can you really? Yeah. Can you see my perspective that the road you've never walked? Yeah. You've never had to experience. Can you actually take yours off and put someone else's on? It's a very, very hard. And I'm not saying I can do it 100%, but I am so much better at it now because of going through such hard things. Yeah. You do realize you don't know what you would do. Right. You don't know how you would, you don't know. Right. But you do know that it must be hard, and you know what hard is. Yes. Yeah. And that's like enough. You leave so much space for that person to be able to just do and grieve and be what they need to do and be and grieve.